Green Country Custom Baits. I'm Jeff. Today's how-to video is going to be on painting the Chartreuse brown splatterback shad pattern. This is a very simple pattern to paint, but we're going to show you some different techniques on how to get a good chartreuse color using different paints and selections that we can get to that from. We're also going to be showing some different techniques on how to get the stippling effect, or what I call the splatter effect. And so if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We're putting out videos each and every week, and a couple videos actually every week. Due to the worldwide situation right now, we've got a lot of time to paint, so we're also going to throw up several videos throughout. I'll leave a link in the description to some of the other playlists. I've got a complete tutorial on airbrush lure art. I'll leave a link into the description on that. So anyway, hope you like the video. Stay tuned. We're going to change to the chesty camera so we can get a close-up and show you what we're going to do on this particular pattern. We're going to use some as a base coat, wicked, just a wicked white. And we've already got that loaded up in our airbrush. Just going to put a nice base coat. Bait has already been prepped. Wipe down. These are lure blanks from Dinger. Make sure you spin it around your lure to get underneath that hook hanger. I'll leave a little bit of space, if you can see, between the X-Acto knife handle and the body of the bait, just so you get a good shot of that, so that when I angle the brush under, it gets a good covering next to that. Make sure you get. Anyway, I'm not going to bore you with the base coat procedure, but wanted to just give you a quick glimpse, show you the paint that we're going to use in this particular deal. So we want a good white base coat on this to really let that chartreuse pop. Okay, so for the first method of establishing our chartreuse color after the white base coat has been completely dried is to we're going to spray a little transparent, real light transparent leaf green over the body of the bait, and then we're going to cover that with a light transparent yellow before the green dries. Real light cover. Okay, if you can see that in the lighting, put a real light covering, some of the white's still showing through. That's the effect we're after. Then we'll come back with the transparent yellow. Just get a good covering over it. And there you have a really nice chartreuse, deep chartreuse color. Okay, for the second method on this wart, we're going to use just a fluorescent yellow. Okay, and it does give it a brighter effect. Fluorescent colors are much brighter than our transparents. And so anyway, just regular Createx fluorescent yellow. As you can see, that first coat is pretty light. Real quick with the heat gun. And there you have here's the comparison. This is a deeper Chartreuse. This is just a really bright Chartreuse. Just to give you an idea of some different techniques in order to get your Chartreuse color. Fluorescent Yellow has a natural fluorescent or a natural Chartreuse color to it. Okay, on the shower blow, we're going to show you a little bit different again using the leaf green, real light. May need to add a little paint here. Just a few drops. We're going to go real light, just a smooth coat. Might have a little clog going on. Now we'll go back over it with the fluorescent yellow and show you what kind of different effect we can get out of this. Do a comparison. This is just the fluorescent yellow by itself, and this is with a little leaf green under the fluorescent yellow. So again, really good effect that you can combine those two colors and get slightly different shades of your Chartreuse color. Okay, for our first stippling effect, I'm going to show you a comparison to, I've got two airbrushes. See if you can see that. Loaded with equal amounts, or not equal amounts, but 411 reducer, 3 drops in each brush, 6 drops of Autoborn brown, just a light brown. Okay, so the difference we're going to show you is the stippling effect with the 5mm or the 3.5mm brush. Okay, so what you want to do in both of these is remove the needle cap from each airbrush, and I'm going to reduce the pressure equally down to around, we'll start at 10 on the first one. 5mm brush first, and again, it's just multiple trigger pulls. Now this is at 10 psi. Hope you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so you get fairly large droplets using the 5mm brush at 10 psi. Okay, we'll switch to the 35mm or the 3.5. Yeah, we're actually, right at 10 psi. Okay, so you can see not just a whole lot of difference there. So, doesn't matter really which airbrush you got. You can do the stippling effect, 10 psi. If we increase the pressure, I'll show you that on the next one. We'll go with King Shad. We're going to increase our pressure to, let's go about 15, and see what effect we get with that. Now you can see we've got much smaller, more atomized droplets. Okay, so that's just a 5-pound increase. Let's go down. And when you're adjusting your pressure, I don't know if you can see this. When you're going down, you gotta let the pressure off of your airbrush and then bring it back up to where you want it. And then check. It's gonna drop 10 to 11. Just crank it up just a little bit more. So, okay, we'll come back over this with 12. And this is about the size that I like on my stippling effects here. And we'll show you that on a clean bait that hasn't been previously splattered with some other pressure. So, and again, a lot of this depends on the thinness that you have your paints. Okay, so let's hit one of these wiggle warts. Okay, so we're getting a combination of the larger splatter that we've seen. All right, and again, that was with the 5mm brush. Okay, so let's look at that 12 psi with the 3.5mm. Really nice. I like the uniformity of this. They're not too large, and they're not too small where you can see them. And I like to coat the back pretty good. Get some real good transitions there. Get a little bit going down the side. Just angle your bait slightly and hit that top edge of the shoulder and let it fall down the side. So there's your brown splatter with a 3.5 at 12 psi. Okay, for our next method, again, we're just going to use put a few drops of the brown into a small cup, piece of paper, doesn't really matter. And I'm going to use this larger, just a cheap artist brush, probably picked up at the local Walmart. We're going to dip a little paint in. Before you start splattering using this flick method, and I'm going to have to probably get up and tilt this a little bit. You want to get the bigger droplets off, but then it's just a flick. And I don't use this method much, as you can tell. But that's just another method that you can use to get your desired effect. You can do the flick method with the brush. It needs to be a fairly stiff bristled brush to get a good effect. And again, a lot of people use the helping hands, which works great. You can manipulate it, but again, I drill holes in my table so I can hold my baits at different positions in order to get the effect that I want, or get the angle that I want. Okay. So again, another method. Just gonna get this in a little bit darker. So no matter what method or pattern, you can get a great splatter effect on your crankbaits using the brush method or using the stippling with the airbrush. Okay, so the three methods we use for the stippling effect, we'll do a quick review of those. The first method was the 5 or 3.5 millimeter brush at 10 psi. Paint was thin 3 to 6 with 411 reducer, and that's the effect we got. The next method, this is 15 psi. We got real light. Now we went back over this. The larger spots you've seen, the original atomization was really fine. Then we decreased the pressure to 12 and went back over that to get a little bit of the larger spots. And the last method we used, was the brush splatter method. Okay, so 3 different effects. Give you a look at the top of the baits. How about the top? Yeah, there's the top. Okay, so next up on my splattered Chartreuse brown back, I like a little bit of orange in the throat. We're going to use pearl orange. Just be a note that this is an extremely high pigmented paint, and even through the 5 millimeter brush, it is recommended that you put a little 411 reducer with that to kind of thin it out. But again, I'll show you the method. Always spray first, and I just want a little orange right above that hook hanger, just like that. For our shower blow, I also want the cup of the mouth to have a little of that orange. Okay, so next up, you can decide whether or not you want to do a Shad Dot. We'll do a few on these just to show you some different techniques that I use in order to put the shad spot on the side. Then we'll follow up with most of these baits need painted eyes, and I'll show you a couple techniques to paint your eyes. Okay, so we've loaded up the brush. We're going to use a pearl black in this particular pattern. So again, this is a Wicked brand, and just a few drops in your brush, and I've got the pressure at about 25 to 26, and you always want to practice, make sure you're getting the atomization you want. And we're just going to put, using trigger control and air, we're just going to start with a small dot and fade it out to the size that we want. See if we can. Just like that. See if I can do a better job with the camera here. All air, slight pullback. And then gently move the airbrush away from the bait. We get a nice faded edge, more like things are kind of in nature. But if you want a good clean edge, so again, if you want a cleaner edge, it's handy to have one of these hose sizers. You can do any size of shad dot you want in representation of however big or small your lure is. So I think on this one we're going to use this third one, and we're going to put that just above that hook hanger. We just want to lay it against the bait, and we'll go just above that lateral line on this bait, and right there. That came out a little heavy too. You got to watch that. So make sure your brush is clean. Again, hook hanger. just above the lateral line. And you get a good clean Shad Dot. Okay, throughout our series of baits here, we have rock crawlers, wiggleworts, again, that really need painted eyes. On these, I'm going to use a white background with a red pupil, and just what I prefer on this particular bait. So we're going to show you 4 different methods for ways or ideas for you to paint your baits. First one just includes, having some trigger pull, good control with the airbrush, and just as we did our shad spot, we're going to start with blowing air right in the center of the eye and just rolling it around. Very light pullback on the trigger. Okay, so make sure I've got a good shot of this. It's kind of hard at this angle. Okay, make sure again, blow any paint off the needle. Light trigger pull. Okay, there you have your white eyelets. Okay, and these baits have a very pronounced or raised eye, so the next method involves a little paint and a Q-tip. And you just want to, I don't know if we're getting this on camera, roll that Q-tip in the white paint. And then just dab an eye on it. As you can see, with these rounded eyes, this method isn't the best. Okay, if you've got a very flat bait, this method turns out a whole lot better. Just wanted to kind of show it to you. Now, you can just keep pressing it out, dabbing it around, and get it to the size that you want. Not sure if I'm getting this on camera here. Okay, we're just, again, another method. Some good uniformity in it. Another method that can be used, okay? All right, third method is again going back to our hole sizer. Okay, for these wiggleworts, most generally I use, I can't tell what, 1464s or something, but this is the one I use. And again, we just line that up with our eye. This is going to be a little bit larger white background around that eye. Wrong one. Make sure you know which airbrush you're using. Just like that. Just like that. Okay. And the fourth method, again, this method is not ideal, and it's very similar to the other, but it's just using different size nails. Okay, so again, I'll use my pinky as a guide and just touch that nail. Head to the bait. Kind of roll it around if need speed bait. Q-Tech methods is again a little better for these particular eyes if you're going to do it without the hole sizer. So, okay, so for pupils, again, same thing. I'm going to use a nail head for this particular bait. Just touch that eye. Again, you can use a Q-tip, you can use just about any method you want. You can use the end of a brush, you can use larger ones, smaller ones. Okay, we'll go up a size here. Give you an idea, this is a little bit larger nail head. And we can use a really small nail head. And on wiggle warts, this one works really well. You can lightly touch it. Got one more. This one I'll put a little more paint on the end and press a little bit harder and flatten that red out. Just kind of roll it around. And there you have the eyes. Okay, so again, a few methods for painting eyes. Again, pretty much our pattern is complete. On some of these baits, we've got the stick-on eyes, and I always add just a little bit of this Loctite super glue, the gel control. And again, just a small dab of that in those eye sockets. And I generally just use my fingers. You can use tweezers or forceps or something like that, but just press that eye in. And these have a sticky back, but I find that it works. They stay a lot better. And there you have. Okay, we're going to show one of the methods we use for clear coating. This is Kbs Diamond Coat. I've already have my lures on our little wire hangers, and all I use is this galvanized steel wire that'll focus in. Let's see, it's 15 pound, 20 gauge. Works extremely well for about any lures. We want to just dip it in slowly and remove it just as slowly. And I've got cut these small drip wires. We got another wiggle wart. Slowly down in. I can fill my jar back up. Okay, today we're going to finish up these 4 baits here with a different clear coat process. This is a 2-part product by Tamco, and it's High Impact Clear is the name of it. It's a 4-to-1 ratio. This is the clear. This is the hardener that I use, H87605 medium. They've got several products. Very good. I mean, this is it's a thin coat, but very, very durable. I've already got it mixed in the airbrush. When you combine the two, just make sure in your airbrush you use a popsicle stick or a craft stick to stir it really well, and make sure you wear a respirator with this one. Which I have here, and as well as make a little noise, but I'm going to turn on the squirrel fan so that it will suck out those fumes for me. So okay, so clean up is acetone. One thing I failed to mention, you want to spray that at 38 to 40 pounds per square inch, or pounds of pressure. Get a good coating. If you feel like you need another one, within an hour you can come back and respray that and get a real extremely durable clear coat for your lures, and it dries fairly fast, you know, in a couple hours depending on your temperature. It's great. One of the reasons I really like it is because on your jerk baits, if you need to keep a pretty light coat in order to keep your suspension rate correct. Another big thing is I can't dip this in KBS with this jointed tail, and so you know you got to have another one. Whether you paint that on with KBS is a possibility, but you got to be real careful. This is thin enough, and I'll just kind of jiggle it throughout, you know, once or twice while it's drying, and I've never had an issue with that particular clear coat of setting up that. So just a couple of flushes with acetone in your brush is a key. You don't want that thing to set up inside your brush because it is extremely hard to clear coat. And that's pretty much it for the clear coat process. Both methods are extremely fast. I used to paint epoxies on, and just, you know, I didn't really like the brushing effect and having to turn them. Neither of these methods do you have to have your turner on. I do have a turner. But anyway, that's the clear coat process, and again, appreciate you stopping in. This was a splatter back pattern. We did kind of a start to finish every facet of it. So anyway, any comments, any suggestions, please leave them in the comment section below. And again, please subscribe to the channel. We need all the subscriptions we can get.